I am an alpha, yet I have been marked by another alpha for a full 3 years. At last, he declared that he had grown weary and wished to set me free. However, I bound his hands and pushed him onto the bed. After being forcibly marked by you for 3 years, would it not be a great loss for me to simply walk away? 1. Jiku is returning to the country, Qiao Zheji remarked, his movements unceasing as he spoke. My body stiffened involuntarily, an instinctive urge to push him away rising within me, yet I found myself unsuccessful. With one hand, Qiao Zheji swiftly quelled my resistance. As an alpha, I ought not to feel so powerless. However, at that moment, his potent pheromones enveloped me, the scent of mint saturating my senses. After being forcibly marked by Qiao Zheji for 3 years, this aroma instinctively incited both a desire to retreat and a compulsion to submit. He grasped the nape of my neck, applying an unyielding force that pressed my face into the softness of the pillow. His other hand rudely brushed over my gland, his tone dripping with sarcasm. What's the matter? Is your beloved's name enough to render you untouchable? Struggling to breathe, I felt a rare flare of anger and chose to remain silent. Qiao Zheji, however, was relentless. Am I right? Countless past experiences had taught me that being obstinate with Qiao Zheji would yield no favorable outcome. The last time I refused to answer him, I was bedridden for 3 days. Merely responding was insufficient. My answer had to please him. Slowly, I shook my head. No. Qiao Zheji scoffed, clearly unconvinced, yet replied, That's good. Without further ado, he leaned down and bit into my gland. The minty pheromones surged within me, inducing a brief moment of dizziness. This was a rather mild reaction. The first time Qiao Zheji marked me, driven by the instinct to dominate and suppress, my pheromones had erupted uncontrollably, resulting in my immediate fainting spell followed by a high fever. His warm tongue soothingly traced my neck, sending a shiver through me and pulling me from my fleeting stupor as I heard his dissatisfied murmur. The duration of your mark is growing shorter. As alphas, we were inherently unable to mark one another, yet Qiao Zheji stubbornly believed that with time, my body would come to accept his pheromones. The reality, however, was that for 3 whole years, I had only learned to refrain from retaliating with my own pheromones when he marked me. My body continued to reject his mark, and as time passed, the speed at which I dispelled his pheromones accelerated. The time his scent lingered on me had diminished from an initial 3 days to 2, then to 1. Presently, it took only a few hours for the chilling minty fragrance to dissipate completely. But it matters not, he continued, if it lingers for a day. I'll mark you once a day. If it lingers for an hour, then once an hour. And if only a minute remains, then I shall mark you every moment. Unable to contain myself, I pressed my hand over Qiao Zheji's mouth. Stop it. Ever since the first marking, aside from my heat cycles, Qiao Zheji had never allowed his scent to vanish from my being. Should it come down to only a minute remaining, he was certainly capable of marking me incessantly. Merely envisioning it sent a phantom pain coursing through my gland. A gentle kiss brushed my palm as he pried my hand away, leaning in to kiss me in this awkward position. Are you frightened? Sure, if you are afraid, perhaps find a way to make it linger in your body a little longer. 2. Qiao Zheji had thoroughly exhausted me for several hours, a clear indication of his foul mood. Ordinarily, I would have endeavored to soothe him, for when he felt unwell, it was I who ultimately suffered. Yet now, my thoughts were somewhat scattered, my mind uncontrollably drifting to the name Qiao Zheji had mentioned. Jiku, my childhood friend and former boyfriend. Had it not been for Qiao Zheji, he might still have been my omega. 3 years ago, when misfortunes befell the Cho family, the typically gentle Jiku had pleaded and cried at home for an entire month, ultimately compelling his elder brother to consent to a marital alliance with the Cho family to help us weather the storm. However, he had arrived too late. When he and Jichu reached my home, Qiao Zheji's car had just departed, and my father was kneeling in the study, begging, Sure, father knows he has wronged you, but please, save me. Save the Cho family. Will you? In just a month, this once vibrant man had become gray-haired. Heartbroken, I knelt before him, my eyes brimming with tears, yet I could not bring myself to nod. For the first time in my life, I despised my decision to pursue research rather than commerce. In the face of the Cho family's massive debts, my meager salary was utterly insignificant. Just as we were at an impasse, Jiku sent me a message, igniting a spark of hope. Dad, the Ji family. My feelings for Jiku were mutual, and compared to Qiao Zheji, the Ji family was undoubtedly a more favorable option. Both my father and I believed we had encountered a turning point. Yet no sooner had Ji Chu and Ji Ku taken their seats than the Cho family door swung open once more, and Xiao Ziji returned. His countenance was cold and severe, his demeanor sharp as a knife. As a top-tier alpha, his pheromones overwhelmed us all, and when his icy gaze swept across the room, everyone but Ji Chu, another top-tier alpha, shrank back involuntarily. Xiao Ziji's piercing gaze lingered on me for 2 seconds before drifting lightly to Ji Ku. Are you attempting to compete with me? Ji Ku, being merely an omega, could hardly withstand his silent pressure. Frowning, I was about to step forward when Ji Chu quickly shielded Ji Ku behind him. His expression grim as he warned, Xiao Ziji, do not overstep. Xiao Ziji remained undeterred. I just established a marriage contract with the Cho family, and you Ji family come in right after to snatch it away. Who is truly overstepping? Ji Chu paused for a moment, then turned to look at my father. My father, confronted by Ji Chu's frosty stare, weakly explained, I agreed. But I had not yet consented. As if reading my father's unfinished words, Xiao Ziji suddenly turned his gaze upon me. His voice as cold as a blade tempered in ice. No one dares to breach a deal with me. You could try marrying him. 3. I dared not attempt. I had long since recognized that Xiao Ziji was unhinged. I could neither gamble with the Cho family nor with Ji Ku. Thus, I remained here by Xiao Ziji's side. Speaking of which, Ji Ku left the country on the day of our wedding, did he not? Xiao Ziji emerged from the bathroom, towel in hand, deliberately seeking to provoke me. His hair, slightly long and with a hint of curl, appeared like a drenched puppy after a shower. Yet he was no docile creature. He was a wolf that clutched the lifeblood of others, unwilling to relent until it had devoured them whole. I mumbled in response, I believe so. Xiao Ziji was evidently dissatisfied with my answer and opened his mouth to speak again. But I suddenly let out a muffled groan. His hand, which had been drying his hair, halted immediately. What's wrong? With an impassive expression, I gestured toward my waist. It hurts. Xiao Ziji furrowed his brow, then strode toward me, casually tossing the towel aside as he seated me on his lap, gently massaging my waist with just the right amount of pressure. The posture was intimate, the action tender, yet his expression was as foul as ever. Sure, you're only capable of these petty tricks. He had clearly seen through my intentions, yet he still willingly fell into my trap. In truth, my motives were not solely to divert his attention. I genuinely felt overwhelmed by his previous mercilessness. I smiled, attempting to appease him, and planted a kiss on the side of his face. Xiao Ziji endured and endured, but ultimately could not restrain himself, a faint smile curving at the corners of his mouth. The following day during the lunch break, I received 2 text messages. One was from Xiao Ziji, succinct yet clear. Come out. There was no need to inquire further. I knew exactly what he sought. The pheromones he left on me would not last until my workday concluded. Every noon, he would seek me out, compelling me to renew his mark. The research institute was not in close proximity to the Jiao Corporation building, and his round trip left him with scant time to rest. I glanced at the second message, but neglected to respond, hastily exiting. As soon as I opened the car door, I found myself pulled into his embrace, my wrist firmly grasped. Xiao Ziji encircled my waist with one arm, burying his face into the crook of my shoulder, inhaling deeply, his voice tinged with frustration. The scent is fainter than it was at this time yesterday. Although the duration of his pheromones lingering on me had been steadily diminishing, such a rapid and pronounced change was unlikely. It could only be attributed to his psychological factors. I proactively tugged at my collar, presenting my gland to his lips, urging, hurry. Xiao Ziji remained unmoving, chuckling softly. If you were to say that in another context, it would please me far more. Unfortunately, you only ever utter its antonym, I retorted, my cheeks flushing at the unspoken imagery that surfaced in my mind. I demurely adjusted my attire and lifted my leg to exit the vehicle, only to be yanked back by Xiao Ziji. He pressed me against the seat, kissing the palm of my hand. Dazed from the kiss, I still struggled to remind him, you need to mark me quickly. His voice was low and husky. There's no rush this afternoon. The lack of urgency meant that upon my return, the lunch break would be nearly over. My colleagues, having awoken, caught the sudden intensity of my pheromones, and they exchanged teasing glances. Brother Chiu, your partner's possessiveness is quite formidable. I chuckled awkwardly, discreetly clasping my collar tighter. Once back at my workstation, I finally pulled out my phone, reopening the text I had glanced at earlier. The number was unfamiliar, yet the content immediately revealed its sender. Shirgu, I'm back. Can we meet? My grip on the phone tightened involuntarily. It was Jiku. He had truly returned. When Jiku and I parted ways, it was, in fact, quite dignified. There were no outbursts. We simply exchanged tearful glances after uttering the word breakup. In that moment, I fully comprehended Ji-Chu's persistent disapproval of Jiku and me being together. As an alpha, I was woefully inadequate in this affluent circle. From the instant I chose the path of research, it was clear I could neither protect the Cho family nor Jiku. Had it not been for my concern for Jiku, Ji-Chu would never have visited my home, let alone offend Zhao Ziji on my behalf. Of course, even if he had been willing, I would not have consented. Confronting Zhao Ziji, even with the Ji family's backing, would yield no benefit. Jiku evidently understood this logic too. Before leaving, he had sent me a message. However, I was marked by Zhao Ziji that night, fell into a 2-day stupor, and by the time I awoke to see it, it was far too late. All his contact information in the country had been cancelled, and Ji-Chu had tightly concealed his new number, rendering it impossible to inquire. At that time, I was unable to respond to his message, and now I felt hesitant. I stared at the message for quite some time before finally typing, Xiaoke, welcome back to the country. Are you free Saturday at 6? Ultimately, I yearned to see Jiku once more, to convey the words I had failed to share 3 years prior. My phone vibrated almost immediately. I'm free, Shirgu. The usual place. I'll be waiting for you. During dinner, my mind wandered. The time and place were set. Now, only one question remained. What excuse would I use to slip away and meet Jiku on Saturday? Zhao Ziji was a busy man, yet adhered to a strict 5-day workweek. He would rather work late into the night than sacrifice any portion of his weekend. His weekends were typically spent at home, most of the time compelling me to adapt to his pheromones. In other words, his weekends were almost inseparable from mine. The table resonated with a couple of knocks, and I looked up to find Zhao Ziji's brow furrowed tightly. What's on your mind? You hardly seem inclined to eat. I had a history of stomach issues, and over the past 3 years, Zhao Ziji had been quite strict regarding my diet. Neglecting my meals was a grave offense in his eyes. I averted my gaze, feeling guilty. Today's experiment didn't go smoothly. His cool voice interjected, Is that so? He seemed skeptical but did not pursue the matter further, simply instructing, eat well. It was rare for Zhao Ziji to be so accommodating, and I found it strange, stealing a glance at him. To my astonishment, he was simultaneously engaged in a conversation while eating. He never replied to messages during meals. Even work-related messages were left until after dining. Who are you chatting with? I inadvertently blurted out. Zhao Ziji quickly concealed his phone, replying, a friend. Lies. At that moment, my appetite vanished entirely. I picked at my food absent-mindedly, then set down my chopsticks, preparing to leave. Stop right there. Zhao Ziji glared at my nearly untouched meal. Are you finished? I was reluctant to engage with him, offering a perfunctory nod. He silently scrutinized me for a moment before abruptly setting down his chopsticks and coming over to scoop me up in his arms. Fine. If you want to eat, then I will. Zhao Ziji ended up not eating after all. My cold demeanor had dampened his spirits, and ultimately, he merely pressed me to renew his mark. That evening, as I lay with my back to him, I soon felt him grasp my waist, forcibly pulling me back into his embrace. After a moment of silence, he suddenly spoke. About Saturday. My heart tightened, and I shot up to look at him. Zhao Ziji lowered his head, kissing my eyes, and after a prolonged pause, he continued. I have something to attend to on Saturday, so I cannot accompany you. This was a relief. I wouldn't need to concoct an elaborate excuse to meet Jiku. Yet, inexplicably, I asked what about the marking. His pheromones could not last a day. Zhao Ziji gazed deeply into my eyes. We'll take care of it when we return home. Is that permissible? Such matters were never subject to my opinion. His sudden inquiry left me at a loss for words, as if I were eager for him to mark me. My ears flushed crimson, and I remained silent in his embrace. Noticing my reticence, Zhao Ziji tightened his hold and repeated, "Cho sure. May I?" Seeing him like this, I sensed that if I remained silent, he might persist in his questioning all night. Such precedents had existed before, where Zhao Ziji resorted to unconventional methods to extract responses from me. Fearing a repeat of that experience, I swallowed my embarrassment and nodded. Yes, on Saturday morning, Zhao Ziji departed early. He once yearned for his scent to linger on me forever, yet after 3 years of futile attempts, it was all in vain. Without repeated markings, by the time the hour we had agreed upon arrived, the fragrance of his pheromones had dissipated completely. The place Jika mentioned as our old haunt was a restaurant we adored during our courtship. Since marrying Qiao Zhiji, I had not set foot there again. The restaurant remained unchanged, and so did Jiku. Upon seeing me, his eyes sparkled, and although he had been quite enthusiastic over text, in person, Jika merely extended his hand with restraint. Sure go, it's been a long time. I clasped his hand. Indeed, it's been a while. You still look as handsome as ever. Shirgu is even more handsome. Jiko had reserved our favorite spot from the past, and he waved the menu playfully. The usual 3? I shook my head. You go ahead and order. I'll take a look later. Jika paused for a moment. Has your taste changed? After being forcibly fed by Qiao Zhiji for 3 years, it indeed had changed considerably. I nodded. I now prefer lighter flavors. Having grown up alongside Jiko, despite not having seen each other for 3 years, our conversation flowed effortlessly. He shared tales of his life abroad, while I recounted my recent experimental findings, and we enjoyed a delightful exchange, provided we overlooked certain sensitive topics. For instance, Shirgu, does Qiao Zhiji treat you well? Jiku, having imbibed a bit of wine, had a rosy complexion, clearly intoxicated. I was taken aback by how his tolerance had diminished since 3 years prior and swiftly attempted to snatch the cup from his grasp.
You cannibally evaded me.
Muttering to himself, I knew it. Qiao Zhiji treats you poorly. He has always been a terrible person, snatching you away just to bully you. Oh dear, I hadn't even said anything yet. Jiku's disparagement of Qiao Zhiji stemmed from his initial impression, which had been exceedingly negative. Back in our first year of high school, when Qiao Zhiji was in his 2nd year, the Qiao family had just shifted their focus back to the domestic scene, and Qiao Zhiji returned to our school with his parents. At that time, he had not yet differentiated, appearing soft and unassuming, and at first glance, quite easy to intimidate. With such a gentle appearance and lacking a strong background, individuals like him were scarce in our elite school. A few pampered youths quickly set their sights on Qiao Zhiji. I first encountered him when he was cornered in the restroom by these young ruffians. The leader attempted to slap his face, but Qiao Zhiji stepped back and evaded the blow. Infuriated, the young ruffian charged at him. Misled by Qiao Zhiji's appearance, I feared for his safety and rushed in to block the assailant's hand, smiling. If you want to fight, why not take it out on me? At that time, the Qiao family had not yet fallen from grace, and upon recognizing me, the young ruffian begrudgingly withdrew his hand. You'd better protect him well. Neither of us realized that in that moment, I was not shielding Qiao Zhiji, but rather the group of privileged youths. Once they departed, Qiao Zhiji stared at me for a while, making me quite uneasy, before he finally asked, "What is your name?" I let out a sigh of relief, attempting to appear nonchalant as I waved my hand. A good deed requires no name. Perhaps we shall meet again. Our next encounter came quite swiftly. That evening, as Jiku and I returned home, we heard faint cries of distress. Following the sound, we stumbled upon an unforgettable scene. In the alley lay 7 or 8 individuals, the very same young ruffians, their bodies bruised and battered, wailing in agony, seemingly unable to stand. At the center stood Qiao Zhiji, still wearing that harmless facade. He seemed untouched by the fray, his white school uniform pristine, save for his right hand, which dripped blood. Yet that blood was clearly not his. He leisurely crouched down, patted the leader of the young ruffians on the face, and inquired, "Who is he?" Confused, the ruffian replied, Who is who?" Without explanation, Qiao Zhiji delivered a punch, eliciting a pained scream. "Brother, I want to do it again. Please spare me." Qiao Zhiji ignored him, continuing to ask, "Who is he?" The ruffian, trembling and weeping, stammered, "Who? Brother, who are you asking about?" Qiao Zhiji's expression remained impassive as he struck again. Perhaps agitated by the ruffian's cries, a nearby lackey suddenly shouted, "I know, it's Qiushi. He is asking about Qiushi." Startled by the mention of my name, I gasped, "Huh?" Qiao Zhiji abruptly turned, his cold gaze locking onto mine, instantly flustered. He discreetly tucked his right hand behind his back, bit his lip, and as his legs began to move, Jika suddenly exclaimed and dragged me into a frantic escape. Shirgu, is he insane? At that moment, I couldn't fathom why, but I glanced back, and Xiao Zhizhi stood at the mouth of the alley, his figure growing smaller and more indistinct. He does seem a bit unhinged, but they provoked him first. Jiku harbored a deep fear of Xiao Zhizhi, and thereafter, whenever he merely spotted him from afar, he would insist on pulling me away. Once we entered university, I avoided business gatherings altogether, and we had not crossed paths since. Then, the Cho family faced a crisis and Xiao Zhizhi married me, an alpha, using half of his fortune. Jiku, having consumed more wine, began to grasp my hand and weep bitterly. Shirgu, it's all my fault for giving you up. I let you be bullied by him. I'm so sorry. So sorry, Shirgu. 3 years ago, the last message Jika sent me was simply an apology, and I hadn't imagined he still bore such feelings. I gently patted the back of his hand, finally able to convey what I had longed to say for 3 years. Xiao Ku, you have done nothing wrong to me. Your choice of the Ji family was entirely justified, for they had no obligation to assist me. Likewise, the Chao family had no such duty. Observing Ji Ku's bewildered expression, I sighed. What kind of fool would spend so much money just to snatch someone away and bully them?
Xiao Keskivico.
I am doing well now. Jika blinked, seemingly in deep thought, and after a while, he appeared slightly sobered by his fright.
Xiyi.
Xiao Zhizhi hasn't he bullied you? Could it be that you? A bony hand suddenly reached out, grasping Jiku's wrist and pulling his hand away from mine. Both Jiku and I turned to look, and he immediately leapt into the arms of the newcomer. Brother. Jichu was impeccably dressed, likely just emerging from a business event, and he secured Jiku in his embrace, nodding at me. His tolerance for alcohol is poor. I've come to take him home. A thought crossed my mind. Did Xiao Ku inform you that we were meeting here? Jichu nodded. I opened my mouth to ask further, but he impatiently interrupted. You're wondering if I told Xiao Zhizhi, now that I know, right? I informed him on the very day you both agreed to meet. No wonder Xiao Zhizhi had acted so unusually that night. It turned out he had known all along. Yet, he still permitted me to meet Jiku. My heart softened instantly, and I bowed to Jichu. Thank you, brother. Jichu had always despised my calling him that. His expression changed several times before ultimately settling into a mask of patience. He ignored me, carefully supporting Jikong as they left. I rushed home without pause. If I were to hazard a guess, Xiao Zhizhi probably had nothing pressing to attend to today. Given his temperament, he was likely at home simmering with jealousy. I felt buoyant until I opened the door and beheld the desolate emptiness of the house. The sensation of being overly sentimental was rather unpleasant. I waited in the living room until 10 o'clock that night when Xiao Zhizhi finally returned. He was inebriated, swaying unsteadily as he pushed the door open. Despite my myriad thoughts, I had no time to dwell on them. I hurriedly went to steady him. Xiao Zhizhi grasped my wrist, scrutinizing me for a good while before uncertainly asking, "Cho sure?" I affirmed, "It's me." He shook his head slightly, muttering, "I'm sorry, I'm drunk." I had never been fond of the scent of alcohol, which was why Xiao Zhizhi rarely came home smelling of it. Even during social gatherings, he would usually partake only sparingly. I couldn't help but smile wryly as I guided him to the sofa. "Sit tight. I'll fetch some hangover medicine from the cabinet." As I stood to leave, he yanked me back, encircling me from behind. His forehead pressed against my ear, his warm breath cascading over my shoulder as he murmured, "Where are you going?" "You're not allowed to." I managed to turn within his embrace, cradling his face and soothingly saying, "I'll be right back. Let go of me first." Xiao Zhizhi paid no heed, his hands awkwardly fumbling with the buttons of my shirt. "Cho sure you don't smell like me anymore." I leaned into him willingly. "You should." My voice suddenly faltered. There was a faint, almost imperceptible scent of cherry blossoms lingering on his collar. It was soft, distinctly the aroma of an omega. Typically, omegas safeguarded their scent meticulously, and it was nearly impossible for them to release their pheromones during normal social interactions. Instantly, I recalled his demeanor that night when he had conversed with someone else. Xiao Zhizhi had unfastened my buttons and was now nuzzling his nose against my gland. I abruptly pushed him away. "Don't touch me." It had been a long time since I had directly refused him, causing his gaze to sharpen. "Cho sure. What did you say?" I could never permit Xiao Zhizhi to mark me with someone else's scent. I replied coldly. I said, Don't touch me, Chao Ziji. His breath hitched at my words, and he tightened his hold around my waist. So, after seeing him once, old flames have been rekindled. Is that it? Or have you never forgotten him in the past 3 years? His eyes glistened with hurt as he accused me. Cho sure, you're rejecting me again for him. He clearly believed that my refusal to let him mark me was because of Jikong. I took a deep breath, striving to calm my emotions. It's not like that. Chao Ziji. Please let go of me, we need to clarify things. Chao Ziji, intoxicated, was even more unreasonable than usual. He carelessly tugged at my clothing. What is there to say? That you want a divorce and to be with Jikong? Cho sure, I'll only accept death. I gritted my teeth, pushing him away while releasing my own pheromones. Aside from the initial uncontrollable instances of marking, I had never released aggressive pheromones towards Chao Ziji. The refreshing scent of bamboo gradually enveloped the air, causing Chao Ziji to furrow his brow, revealing a wounded expression. My heart twisted, and I attempted to retract my pheromones. But to no avail. Instead, the aroma intensified. The storm in Chao Ziji's eyes grew fiercer. Suddenly, he released me, sweeping everything off the coffee table and forcefully pinning me against it. In the next moment, an overwhelming scent of mint enveloped me, and I soon succumbed. The cold edge of the table pressed painfully against me, and Chao Ziji quickly noticed, placing his warm hand atop it, only removing it once he had thoroughly marked me. Though I was the one being coerced, Chao Ziji bore a look of grievance as he asked, "Is he truly that important? If I had known, I would never have allowed you to meet," Chao Ziji said, his tone suddenly shifting. Cho sure. 3 years later, I found myself once again rendered unconscious by Chao Ziji. The last time was due to the discomfort of initial marking. This time, the bespectacled beta doctor, surnamed Chu, barely lifted his head as he remarked, "You've been exposed for too long, you caught a chill." Dr. Chu was the private physician for the Chao family, and over the years I had encountered him frequently, becoming quite familiar. "Xiao Chu, my health is not that fragile." Though I could not compare to Chao Ziji, I maintained a regular exercise routine and would not faint merely due to such a circumstance.
Xiao Chu Frauen Impatinti.
I am the doctor, not you. If I say so, then it is. I was about to retort when Chao Ziji entered, causing me to silently avert my gaze and close my mouth. Xiao Chu treated everyone equally, but his demeanor towards Chao Ziji was even more abrasive. "Who let you in? Get out." Even without seeing, I could feel Chao Ziji's intense gaze upon me since he had entered. Xiao Chu, noticing his lack of response, adjusted his glasses and attempted to usher him out. "I told you," Chao Ziji interrupted, "I won't do anything. Can I stay for a while?" This question seemed directed at Xiao Chu, yet it felt like it was meant for me as well. I remained silent, and Xiao Chu glanced at me before rising. "I'll step out for a bit. I'll be back shortly." Chao Ziji did not approach, remaining at the door, keeping his distance from me. 5 minutes later, I cursed under my breath, turning to him in frustration. "Don't you have anything to say?" Chao Ziji's lips moved slightly as he murmured, "I'm sorry." He often apologized to me, usually after pushing things too far. However, those apologies were typically not sincere, as the full sentence would be, "I'm sorry. I'll do it again next time." This time, the latter half was absent, leaving me feeling somewhat disoriented. Chao Ziji was domineering and forceful. This was not the first time he had coerced me. In fact, I had been compelled by him throughout, and without his pressure, I would never have married him, let alone allowed him to mark me. Though I felt a hint of anger, I was more preoccupied with another matter. I had yet to inquire about something that had been left unspoken, overshadowed by the drunken state of Chao Ziji. "Chao Ziji, you smell of omega. It was because of this that I told you not to touch me." Upon hearing this, Chao Ziji appeared momentarily bewildered, his expression shifting to one of confusion mixed with delight, akin to a child suddenly struck by a confectionery surprise. Uncontrollably, he stepped closer, then halted. His demeanor had been peculiar. He neither wished to leave nor draw nearer. Chao Ziji stood still, observing me quietly for a moment before lowering his head to say, "You are also an alpha. You should understand that an alpha cannot refuse an omega with a perfect compatibility." Cho sure, that scent, it is because I encountered my destined one. I am becoming rather weary of you as well. Let us divorce. I truly feel as though I have been deceived like a fool. Just last night he declared, "I want a divorce unless I die," and today he is already tired of me. I refrained from exposing Chao Ziji. Very well. Coincidentally, I can seek out the person I truly care for. A flicker of pain crossed Xiao Ziji's face, yet he uttered not a word, merely casting a glance back at me before departing. Soon after, Xiao Chu entered. "Qiu Shi, take this medication once a day." Upon meeting my gaze, he fell silent, retreating slightly, attempting to leave. "Come back." I smiled gently at him. "Xiao Chu, I have a question for you." I felt no significant ailment and was quite lively that evening. Xiao Ziji had the butler deliver a divorce agreement, which I discarded without a glance into the cabinet. After a while, I knocked on the guest room door. Xiao Ziji initially hesitated to open it, but he could not resist the allure of my pheromones wafting from within. Frowning, he pulled me inside. "Why has your heat phase begun early? Why not use the suppressants in the room?" My heat phase has always been managed with suppressants. Since we are both alphas, Xiao Ziji's pheromones are ineffective on me. His proximity only exacerbates my discomfort. Thus, during my heat phase, he has never come near me, let alone mark me. Yet during his heat phase, even when drenched in sweat from the discomfort, he insists on embracing me to reinforce his marking. I did not respond, grasping Xiao Ziji's hand and lowering my head to say, "Xiao Ziji, I am in distress." Xiao Ziji grew anxious. "Qiu Shi, release me. I will fetch you some suppressants." I looked up and smiled at him, not only refusing to let go but also locking the door behind me. Xiao Ziji froze. "Qiu Shi?" I ignored him, raising my hand to loosen his tie. Xiao Ziji's gaze darkened as he seized my hand. "Stop this." I held firm, stubbornly meeting his eyes. Xiao Ziji had never resisted me during my heat phase, and indeed, he soon relented. Yet he persisted in his pleas. "You need suppressants now, Qiu Shi." How tiresome. I grasped his tie and, using the leverage, rose slightly on my toes to kiss him. It was my first time approaching him during my heat phase. Xiao Ziji stood frozen, allowing me to unfasten his tie and bind his hands. I led him to the edge of the bed, pushing him down, then knelt upon the bed, leaning closer. "Xiao Ziji, you have forcibly marked me for 3 years. If you simply walk away now, would I not be at a loss?" Xiao Ziji regarded me for a moment before asking in a low voice, "Do you wish to mark me?" I did not conceal my intentions, my gaze firmly fixed on his neck. "Yes, I want to mark you." Xiao Ziji's expression became exceedingly complex, and after a prolonged silence, he sighed in resignation. "I will allow you to mark me, but not now. Qiu Shi, contact between alphas during their heat phase is extremely painful." I leaned down, drawing near to his neck. "It is all right, Xiao Ziji." As he turned his head to evade me, I whispered 3 words in his ear. "I love you." He stiffened, his brows twitching violently, yet he no longer resisted. I pushed aside the collar of Xiao Ziji's shirt and sank my teeth into him, the minty scent flooding my senses and igniting an explosion in my mind. Tears streamed down my face uncontrollably. It hurt so much, yet Xiao Ziji had embraced me every single time. When I opened my eyes again, I found Xiao Chu watching me with an impassive expression. "You truly are quite shameful. The one who fainted from being marked was you. Marking others, you still fainted." I barely paid heed to his mockery. "What of Xiao Ziji? Is he all right?" Xiao Chu scoffed. "He is a top-tier alpha. His physical constitution is twice as robust as yours. What could possibly be wrong?" Just as I began to feel relieved, Xiao Chu continued, "But he did conduct an omega pheromone fusion experiment prior. Now that you have bitten him, he has a fever." I tossed aside the covers and attempted to leave, but Xiao Chu blocked my path. "You are still in your heat phase. I advise you to apply a suppressor first." After dutifully applying the suppressants, I sought out Xiao Ziji. He lay with his eyes closed, his cheeks flushed, exuding a faint aroma of bamboo. It was my pheromones. An unusual sense of satisfaction erupted within me. After all, I am also an alpha, possessing a strong desire for possession over my beloved. "Xiao Ziji." At the sound of my voice, Xiao Ziji opened his eyes immediately, reaching out to touch my face, his scorching palm resting against me. The intimacy of the gesture was undermined by his words, which were infuriating. "Qiu Shi, I believe we should still get a divorce." My smile faltered. I nearly forgot that we had yet to settle this matter. Yet this scoundrel, I had confessed my feelings, marked him, and he still had divorce on his mind. No divorce. I resolutely refused. Xiao Ziji's fingers twitched, yet I seized them. I had asked Xiao Chu that day, "Isn't it merely that you forcibly marked me, causing a disturbance in my pheromones?" It was not difficult to deduce. The only event that transpired between that night and the following day was my fainting. My physical constitution was not so frail, and during that night when I released aggressive pheromones toward Xiao Zheji, out of concern, I had attempted to restrain myself but failed. Clearly, it was my body that had faltered. I had guessed the general idea, so I did not need to exert much effort. Xiao Chu readily divulged the truth. A and A were inherently unsuitable for mutual marking, especially since Xiao Zheji's possessiveness is exceedingly intense, leading to excessive frequency in marking. Over time, my pheromones were affected, resulting in disorder. Additionally, being marked again by Xiao Zheji during the pheromone turmoil caused me to faint. Xiao Chu stated that to heal, it would be best to avoid contact with Xiao Zheji's pheromones. Thus, Xiao Zheji dared not approach me and sought a divorce. Xiao Zheji, you went to such lengths for me, conducting the Omega pheromone fusion experiment. I will not divorce you over this. Xiao Zheji's eyes widened in disbelief, clearly taken aback that Xiao Chu had revealed this to me. His pheromones lingered on me for increasingly shorter durations, causing him great distress. Long ago, he had consulted Xiao Chu for a solution. Xiao Chu believed that an AA pairing defied logic, suggesting the fusion of omega pheromones in hopes of prolonging the marking time. Thus, that night he was conversing with Xiao Chu about the progress. The next day, he was indeed unscathed. He likely avoided me out of fear that he would inadvertently control me and prevent me from meeting Ji Cheng. Coincidentally, Xiao Chu had produced the first fusion agent that day and had taken him for an experiment. The scent was not a result of Xiao Zheji's secret actions, but rather a remnant of the fusion agent injected. I nudged against Xiao Zheji's palm. There will always be a way. Be good. Let us not divorce, shall we? I moved out of the Qiao household. Of course, it was only temporary. While I was reluctant to part ways with Xiao Zheji, my well-being remained paramount. After much deliberation with Xiao Zheji, we decided on a brief separation, vowing to reunite once I discovered a means to evade the influence of his pheromones. Simultaneously, I forbade him from conducting any further pheromone fusion experiments. Xiao Zheji furrowed his brow, expressing his discontent. I believe this could serve as a breakthrough for our pheromonal compatibility. I gazed at him and replied, "But I adore your original scent." After that, he ceased to mention the matter. Contemporary medical advancements are remarkable, and 6 months later, Xiao Chu reached out to me with a phone call. That afternoon, Xiao Zheji came to fetch me. Under the sun, he extended his arms toward me from a distance. I was suddenly reminded of a time long ago, when we had just married. Xiao Zheji often pressed me to initiate intimacy, yet I felt awkward and clumsy, which only served to frustrate him. "Qiu Shi, when will you learn to come into my embrace?" As I approached him, I answered across the span of 3 years now, in the future and forever. Extra. I fell in love with Qiu Shi at first sight. It bore no resemblance to the archetypal hero saving a damsel in distress, for I had never required saving. It was as if his mere presence compelled my heart to love him. Science cannot elucidate this phenomenon. I deem it destiny. Alas, he witnessed an undesirable side of me. Qiu Shi feared me, and I found myself deprived of any chance to draw near to him until the Qiu family faced bankruptcy. I was aware that Qiu Shi was involved with an Omega from the Ji family, who were quite reputable. If Ji Cheng could rescue him, I would willingly step aside. I set a deadline for myself, 1 month. Should the Ji family remain inactive after that period, then Qiu Shi would be mine. As I departed the Qiu residence that day, my heart raced uncontrollably. However, shortly after leaving, I received news that the Ji family had made their move. The deadline had passed. I would not yield to any last-minute attempts. Of course, this was merely an excuse I concocted for my own selfish desires. I wanted Qiu Shi. I had yearned for him for a decade. I hastily instructed the driver to turn around and practically dashed back into the Qiu household. Qiu Shi still feared me. He acquiesced. On our wedding night, disregarding his struggles, I forcibly marked him. It was painful. He suffered, and I did too. Qiu Shi even lost consciousness, but thankfully, Xiao Chu reassured me that he would be fine. He would grow accustomed to my pheromones over time. I began to compel Qiu Shi to adapt to my presence. He harbored no affection for me, yet out of gratitude for my assistance to the Qiu family, or perhaps due to fear, he often endured my advances. At times, when I witnessed the discomfort etched on his face, I contemplated releasing him from this torment. It was inherently illogical and counterintuitive, yet I found myself incapable of letting go. My nature is selfish and greedy. I constantly hoped for a little more time, perhaps, If Qiu Shi remained bound to me long enough, he would eventually love me. Time passed and 3 years slipped away. Qiu Shi had long since ceased to resist me. On most occasions, he even indulged me. Just as I believed everything would turn out well, Ji Cheng returned. Upon learning that they had arranged to meet, I was engulfed by fear and anxiety. How could I possibly compete with Ji Cheng? Yet Ji Chu said, "Let them meet, Qiao Ziji. Do you not wish to know if, after 3 years, Qiu Shi harbors feelings for you?" I yearned to know. After receiving the pheromone fusion injection that day, I succumbed to temptation and rushed to the restaurant where they were meeting. Qiu Shi appeared so relaxed, a sight I rarely witnessed in his presence. The distance was too great. I could not discern their conversation. But then, Ji Cheng suddenly grasped Qiu Shi's hand, and to my dismay, he did not pull away. I gasped, rising abruptly, torn between the desire to intervene and the fear of confrontation. What if he chose that moment to sever ties with me and leave with Ji Cheng? For the first time in my life, I fled in a cowardly manner. I sought refuge in a friend's private bar, drowning my sorrows in drink. My friend, unable to bear my despondency, remarked, "If Qiu Shi hasn't liked you for 3 years, perhaps it's time to let go." I stared into my glass, lost in thought. But what if? What if he chose not Ji Cheng, but me? What if he loved me too? No, even if he did not love me, I would not relinquish my claim. If I obtained him, he would be mine. At worst, I would compel him for a lifetime. The end of the narrative. Thank you for listening. We shall meet again in the next story.